Hey, everybody, we are live. I have a very special guest today. If you guys don't know who this is, he is the founder and CEO of the Cash Flow Diary. He has trained thousands of people across 16 countries. He's been a real estate investor. He has single family properties, multifamily properties, commercial properties. He invests in notes. He brokers notes. He even invested in cell phone towers. Like this guy has done all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And then he stumbled upon an investing strategy that really fits his investor ID. And we're going to hear all about it today. My special guest today is Mr. Jay Massey. How's it going, Jay? Welcome to the Home Zone.
I like it. I like it. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, Jay, thanks for sticking in with all the technical difficulties that we were having earlier. But technology, life happens. Real estate has bumps in the road too. We just got to go with it, right?
100%. Always. We will find a way through if we're willing.
Yes. So I'm sure you can go on for days about crazy real estate stories, and even with what are you doing now? Short-term rentals, is it? Is that your
Short-term rentals is the world. Yes. Cash flow. Well, I'm always doing cash flow because that's what it's about. It's how can you leverage assets to generate cash flow. Now, what that asset is, that can change from time to time. But for the most part, it's always been real estate related because it's one of the easiest ways to begin building cash flow if you have none.
right? So what made you go from, well, let's rewind a little bit. What were you
Sure.
doing and what made you have that switch? What made you have that switch into what you're doing
Got
now?
it. So what it comes down to is just a number of things. I like looking at, it's like any other business. Real estate is a business. We don't often talk about it like a business, even though we should. What I mean very specifically is we don't think about the customer preferences, customer buying behavior. And when you do that, like there's a reason, for example, or what's it called? Like McDonald's, there's a season for like the McRib or the classic Big Mac. Or when I went to Estonia and went to their McDonald's, and the menu was just a little bit different because the customer is different over there, right? All of those things, when you put them together, what it comes down to is you should, as a real estate person, because you're serving a person. We just call them a tenant, right? It's not. I mean, the property is important, but it's not all about the property. How is that person going to use the property? And that's the part that I think most real estate individuals neglected. And what was thinking about was very simple and straightforward. With a portfolio that was, pretty much further away from us. I live in California, but the portfolio primarily being in Tennessee and other states east with small children, all this other stuff. I wanted my kids to be able to see what we did. And I didn't have a way of doing that. So I was previously looking for a franchise or something of that nature because I was trying to find a way to teach business principles to my children while without having to give up the weather in California. And what it came down to is another student brought to me the idea of short-term rentals, and when I began to run those numbers, well, anyone runs the numbers will tell you what to do. We discovered a number of things along the way, but what I was excited about is it's one of the most accessible ways to begin to build the skill sets and the muscle necessary for owning real estate long term.
So what has the Airbnb? So what about the model though? Is it just the cash flow that you like? Is it like
That
because
was the thing that got my attention. That's what
okay.
got my attention long enough for me to stop and go, okay, what is this? And what developed from that was an understanding that I could have my children participate. Mind you, I was looking for a way to create more jobs in a local sense because having a portfolio out of state is wonderful and all, but when I go to church or when I would go to a friend's house or when someone would say I need a job, it was like, well, if you want to move to Tennessee, I can help you. But it wasn't lining up with what I wanted to accomplish and how I wanted to make a difference locally. And then my children would never see it. So that was the thing that I was like, oh, wait a minute, I can do this right down the street. And then as you if you keep running the numbers, what you'll realize is that you can have A-class property with C-class profit. All right. So here's what I mean by that. Part of the reason many, especially in a high priced marketplace like a California, go to California or go outside of the state is to try to increase the return on investment, specifically cash return on investment. And sometimes you sacrifice the quality of the land under the real estate in order to achieve that. Or you also increase the amount of management required in that situation. So what I saw was this is what I was initially calling it the poor man's McDonald's strategy, because now you can put a business on top of a quality piece of land and over time be able to pay it off with the business revenue in and of itself. You don't even have to make the best burger, as they say. You just have to you can keep deploying it. And this is what McDonald's has done very expertly. It has trained and helped many franchisees go out there, and they own, with them owning the real estate under it, some of the highest and best in every city and state that real estate gets paid for. And I was like, well, shoot, now I can take a 2 million, or I think I did the numbers, it works up to about a $10 million asset, and get it paid. If I take none of the profits from the business in and of itself, you could put yourself in a situation where you actually pay that thing off in like 7 to 10 years, or sometimes a little bit faster, depending on how aggressive you are. So I was like, this is the best way to collect higher quality real estate. We should do this.
So you figured out how to invest in California, where a lot of people can't figure out the model because it's A-class properties, but with A-class rent, which is
right. A-class properties with A-class rent with like triple A-class down payment. I mean, it's hard to make California by itself make the numbers, because you either have to underutilize cash. You end up just underutilizing cash to a great extent. You have to put a significant amount down in order to make the rents make sense on the leverage that you're using, and that's when you end up with a lower than what you want cash on cash return, which is, for most individuals, anyone listening to my voice who's in the pre-retirement stage, one of the things you should be paying attention to is the cash on cash return. Like, how much money, how fast will you get your original investment back, specifically without requiring a refinance? Because that's everything. You can't depend on, or shouldn't depend on, okay, I'll just get a refinance later and that'll get me my money back. Well, I would not base my strategy on that.
Wow, so you're the anti-burr. It's not necessarily you're the person I'm talking to who is looking at it from a different approach, where you are putting money down and then you're getting that back. You're recouping that through the NOI, through the cash flow. You're not recouping it from doing a value add and then refinancing the equity out.
That's fine. Revenue. But that's fine. But that's a single point of failure. That's my problem. As soon as you can't get that loan for whatever reason, everything else falls apart. You know, and so what I'm saying is, just operate it. Just, does someone want and or need a place to stay? If that answer is yes, and you're willing to do the work, regardless of market conditions, whether they're lending or not, get all your money back and do it again. And get all your money back and do it again. That to me is a more solid strategy with less weak points. And if I want to, then sure, you can still go get that refinance if it's there for you, but that cannot be the central piece. And that's what I find, is that people who like burr don't have a backup plan.
Right. Multiple exit strategies to mitigate your risk. So all you're saying is pay it back from the cash flow. No, it's great. It's a great model. It's a solid model. Mm-hmm. And that's how people become successful, because, like you said, they can refinance. Now, you've helped thousands of people become an Airbnb specialist, or should I say short-term rental specialist?
Short-term rental is more accurate, but yes.
Right. Yeah, short-term rental. So I love, anybody who's watching this show, they know about, like, I love getting into the details of everything. So what are some of the struggles that people have run into first starting out, who maybe they had rentals, they did flips, and they're listening to what you're saying. They're like, this cash flow thing sounds awesome with the short-term rentals, but I don't know what to do. So what struggles have people come up with that you've helped them through?
The first one is just understanding, because one of the first things that I'm telling people is before you start purchasing property is to lease them. So there's a number of reasons, because we're going to lower the risk profile. And again, Hone, just very plainly, the first time you do anything, for me, maybe you're different, but the first time, I don't know, did you play a sport?
I
Like
was a
any sport?
gymnast,
What was
and
it?
I'm a gymnast and a mountain biker.
Gymnast. Perfect. So the first time you tried your somersaults, did it go well?
No,
No, not at all, right? So
no,
it
not
took
at
a
all.
while, but
Right.
now it's a different story. You don't have to think about it. And the same is true with real estate investing. It's very much a skill. And because of that, when you are going for your first one, the thing that like I've been thinking about or have started thinking about a lot is we're asking someone with the least amount of experience to accept a 15, 20, 25, or 30-year commitment known as their mortgage in some way, shape, or form. And understand more people, I mean, many marriages don't last that long, unfortunately, right now. And yet we're willing to do that. And then once we've done it, because of either down payments or the additional expenses related to direct ownership of the property, it slows down your cash on cash return. Equity is wonderful, but you cannot eat with it. Can't go to the grocery store, doesn't put gas in the car. So what I started asking myself again is just doing the math. Uh-oh, I just lost my mic. 1 second. Totally just fell. Oh, there it is. Found it. Oh, that is awesome. I, I am having a day, my friend.
So guys, if you guys are interested in investing in real estate, you guys see how things can happen in your life, and you just got to roll with the punches. So Jay lost his microphone, so be it. I then can take over and I can have the conversation. So what Jay was saying is that if you're looking to do the Airbnb strategy or the short-term rental strategy, don't just hop in and get a 30-year mortgage on a property and be like, yes, this is the way. He was saying that maybe you could lease a property and then you can maybe do a sublease. So if you lease a property, do a sublease, you can Airbnb that way. You don't even have to buy the property. So again, some
right.
people, go ahead.
No, right. No, you're 100% right. You need control more than you need equity. And what I'm saying is that you're taking a greater risk than you have to in order to get it when you go to buying the property. Now, I know you've been told and you're there, you're like, but buying the property is the greatest way to build wealth and all this stuff. And I'm not saying it's not, but wealth is not income. And understand, you don't get to benefit from that wealth unless you have enough income long term to pay off that mortgage. Now, once you've done that, different story. Now, with that, I am not saying go buy the house in cash either. What I am saying is, in order for you to say put down a down payment, you saved up 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 12 years. I don't know how long you did. You did what you needed to do to save it up. And what I'm saying is, you take that bundle of cash and build a machine that keeps creating down payments. Let me say it in very plain numbers. If you had 25 grand, and I'm making up numbers, it doesn't really matter the number, but if you have 25 grand, you go out there and instead of purchasing the property that you're going to use as a short-term rental, lease it. And what I'm saying is you'll be able to acquire enough properties, enough locations, so that within 10 to 18 months, you get your 25 grand back. And now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, how many ever short-term rentals simultaneously. So you've got all the short-term rentals and your cash. So now you're presented with a new question. All right, cool. I've got this thing that keeps producing me cash. Do I do it again, double down, or do I just start buying a property every 18 months? I want you to build something that keeps throwing off enough cash so that you can go into what I call asset collection mode. However fast you want to do that. And I'm just asking you to delay your gratification just a tad, but it's not like a sacrifice, because you are also going to be learning all of the skills you need in order to own real estate long term. You're going to learn the tenant screening. You're going to learn the turnover process. You're going to learn how to meet customers' expectations. You're going to learn how to deal with difficult people. You're going to learn how to get rid of problems without overreacting or underreacting, because that all of these things are things that new landlords get themselves into. And unfortunately, without the experience behind it, they don't know how to respond, because most of the time it's not what happened that's bad, it's how we respond to what happens. And when you don't have the experience to deal with it, you tend to make it worse.
That is some true wisdom right there, spoken by the man himself. Like that has so many layers to it, because people who are not yet in the business, they don't get the emotional turmoil that we experience as investors when we have a property, something's happening, and if we're not in the right frame of mind, we don't have stability, then we can make everything terrible, like 10 times worse. And it doesn't need to be that way. That's why sometimes maybe if you're doing rentals, you should maybe have a property manager to separate you from the emotional triggers. That's a possibility. I also like what you said about buying properties, right? Though you may be creating wealth, wealth is not income. And income is the key here, especially when you're starting out, because you can't spend wealth, you can't spend equity, you can't eat it, you can't do anything with it. The income, though, that is what changes your life. And that income is what generates more down payments, as you were saying, which allows you to maybe buy a house when you're more emotionally stable. You can buy a house, or you can just rent more of them and create more income.
Exactly. And that's the simple, that is the simple idea. It's not overly complicated. It's just, and it requires no special financing from any institutions whatsoever. It doesn't require raising tons of capital with additional risk. And it doesn't necessarily require using a property manager, because even if you do use a property manager, especially at the beginning, you don't know how to manage someone whose job you have never done. You don't know. And it's all the things you don't know that you get to learn along the way with as a short-term rental operator, such that you are in a better experience position, emotional intelligence position, in order to direct the property manager or yourself or what have you. And it just becomes a better experience overall for all in the chain, long before you start having to deal with a random roof repair or having to deal with, you know, the HOA or city ordinances and someone telling you about your sidewalk being, if you've never put in a parking lot, whoo, buddy, they cost a lot more than you are thinking. That's all I'm going to say. And it takes longer than you expect. And you're like, I just wanted a parking lot. Yeah, I know. And that's what it is. Being used to that takes time. And it's something, when you're working with your own small, precious, you know, pot of equity, we can over-index on the wrong things to do.
For those who are just hopping on, you are watching the Hone Zone. We have Jay Massey here, the founder of the Cash Flow Diaries. So Jay, the first time I ever got introduced to you, you were taking your course called Understanding Your Investor ID. And that course, I mean, it was so thorough, because everybody that I meet who wants to jump into real estate, they just jump in, they pick like the number 2 on the menu, which is like rental, or number 3, I'm going to do flips, right? And that's all they got, flips or rentals, and maybe throw in some wholesaling, and that's it. But you took a different approach. You took this like fundamental approach where it was like, who are you? And what is it that you actually want to do? What is it that you want to deal with? And then if you figure that out, you become a better investor. How about that? Who would have known, right? Could you go into a little bit about that? Because that changed me fundamentally. We have a comment. Sherry says, I love that class. So if you guys are hopping on, definitely put your questions in the comment box and I can put them on the screen if you guys have any questions for Jay.
Got it.
But again, Understanding Your Investor ID. Loved it.
So what it comes down to is that again, nearly everything I've ever taught was born out of my own frustration. So it's like, hey, now that this has frustrated me, let me see if I can save you some time. I was just frustrated with the number of types, as you mentioned. You only talked about the types of transactions that I actually completed. That's not even the types that have tried. Okay,
Oh.
so it's like, so most people won't stick through all of the stuff to then finally find where they should be. And I knew that. And the only reason we stuck with it is not because we're special, it's because I needed to eat, period. I had to find a way to make stuff happen. And what it comes down to, though, is I learned through lots of failures that I'm not cut out for a fix and flip. And I had to, it was like, why? Why did that not work? But how can it work for, Kendall and Darren? Why? I know them. They're just like, I don't get it. But yet there was something underneath all of those things, how they operate, who they are, what they enjoy doing, the parts that they enjoy or those are clues, and we're all made differently. We all have got different gifts and different ways of being able to provide value to the marketplace. But being willing to say, you know what, this is what I'm cut out for, and doing that to the exclusion of, and this is why it's hard, because the fix and flip person, that's sexy. Oh, I made 30,000, 50,000, 20,000, 90,000, 200 grand on this one transaction. That, you know what? No one ever goes, you did $100 a month. No,
Right.
that is not a thing. That is just not a thing, right? However, if that's what you're best suited for, that's what you should be doing. And therefore, we also have to make it okay, because it's socially acceptable for someone to do something completely, what seems like it's completely opposite of what they, quote unquote, should be doing according to the wisdom of either their friends or even themselves. Because you got to understand, when we first got started with a credit score of 398 and no cash and no place to, squatting a bank on property, all of that stuff was going on. It made sense to go after the $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 check. That's what made it's like, yeah, I need that. Now, $100 a month, that's not going to really help. It did not make sense. But what I did not understand about myself is that I was better suited for the skill sets required to actually produce the value. And that's the difference. The marketplace doesn't care about your need at all. My need, irrelevant. The marketplace cares about what it wants. Give the marketplace what it wants, which is usually close to, and what you can provide the marketplace is going to be really close to the skill set that you have. And if you don't have, or if you feel when you experience high emotions from fixing and flipping and contractors not doing what they're supposed to do, and you really don't want to go into Home Depot and understand tubs and toilets and all the things that you need to, you're probably more of a cash flow person than the fix and flip person. And that's okay. And then just leverage those strengths, because there's a role for them to play in the marketplace. You just got to find it. And not every strategy uses all of those strengths.
And how does a person go down that rabbit hole of self-discovery? So it's great to be like, okay, I tried flipping and I hate it.
Yeah.
How do you save people that the agony and the years of not having to go down that like going through the process to discover that they hate it? Is there a way that they can shortcut that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because all you got to start doing is looking at some of the things that you like doing that are not even related to real estate. What are some of the things you like doing that are not related to real estate? What are the parts specifically when it comes to fixing and flipping? If that's what you tried and you didn't like, what did you not like about it? What did you, because I know for me, here was one of the things. It's like, I did all of that work. It took all of that stress, and I only got paid once. Nah, that I don't like that. I just didn't like it. I don't like, and then it was like, and I have to pay what for tax? No. There's got to be a better way, because that was too much effort, too much for me effort. See, there are certain things that other people do. There's struggle energy, and then there's that flow energy. There are things that are required inside of a fix and flip that are all struggle energy for me, but there could be flow. They're easy for other people, right? Like my 12-year-old daughter. I don't assemble anything. Like me, like if it says some assembly required, whatever it is, I don't even care how complicated it is. I literally hand her the unopened box. She's 12 and give it to her. She lights up. She's excited. She's can't wait. She will go down the tool aisle and spend time evaluating screwdrivers because that's her, not me. And when you marry that, if you put me in that situation because now I've got all this money on the line, yeah, I'm going to sit there and struggle and figure it out and be frustrated. But ask yourself, where did you experience that flow type of energy? Where? When? Is it when you're decorating? Is it when you were in English class? When did you experience that? Because understanding that is the key to figuring out which strategy or strategies, because you got to balance against the reward. There's going to be work in all of them, but one of them is going to flow easier and the reward and it's going to feel like, oh yeah, that was worth it. That was nothing. That was easy work. And I got paid for all this. Then that's when you know you're hitting it, is because, and that's what I experienced when I think about even $100 a month. It's like, man, I did that in $100 a month. I like this. That was exciting. And it's coming again next month. Oh yeah, this is good. What happens if I get 30 of these? You know, that's really the thought process that my brain can go through and works on and gets excited about.
Got it. All right. All right. So it's I think they call it flow, right? Find
Yes.
where in life you experience flow.
Yes.
And then see what in real estate can offer that similar kind of flow.
100%.
And then you're there. I've experienced, so I've talked to a lot of real estate or people who want to be in real estate. And
Sure.
I find them where they will just pick and choose because they think this is what they have to do, or they don't know that anything else exists. Like when they
Right.
hear real estate investing, they only know flipping because of TV, or they know renting because maybe they rent the house that they live in. And that's it.
Yeah.
They got
Yeah.
things. I usually tell people when they're first getting in, they're like, Hone, what advice do you have? I say, first step, learn what's on the menu.
Yes.
Learn what's on the menu. There's so many ways to invest in real estate. Why choose the one you hate?
Yes.
Like
unknowingly in some cases.
Unknowingly, definitely is a big reason why.
Yeah. I mean, it's no different. Like you wouldn't do that at a restaurant. My wife definitely wouldn't do it. She's going to look at every page of the menu before she decides, even if it's a restaurant she's been to before. She's still going to, I mean, the menu doesn't have to change. She's going to examine it all and then make her choice because she wants to know, is she making the highest and best use of her time eating? It's in a total experience. You got to see it. But the same is true with your time, your effort, your energy, your dollars, any resource that you're using. We don't take the time because we feel like we've got to hurry up and get to the end instead of enjoying the process.
That is a big one right there. A lot of people think that they need to build a huge portfolio and get to the end, which is like retirement, whatever that may mean, or just get to it. How do we enjoy the process? Because a lot of people get into real estate not because they love it, it's because it's a means to an end, right? They're doing it for the money.
Yep.
So it's doing it for the money. And how is it that someone can find that joy within the process?
Then if they're doing it for the money, they're not the person. They shouldn't be. And that's the difference between being a real estate and being a real estate investor and investing in real estate. And when you understand that about yourself, because that's one of the first things is you've got to decide, do I really like real estate? Like, ooh, walls and ooh, carpet. This is exciting.
No.
Putting it together. Or do you like the benefits that real estate provides? I have said before, we'll say again, and often, I don't like real estate. I know that.
I say that all the time.
Period. I like the benefits though.
Yes, the tax
all day long.
Yeah.
So I play on the side where I can still generate the benefits without having to go lift the hammers. I don't really like when we're designing a short-term rental. I don't have any input whatsoever. I do not care what color. I don't care where the couch came from. I don't need to know any of that. functionally, will it function? That's what I care about. Did we stay in budget? Great. Are you're excited about that wall piece? Awesome. Way to go. Not my thing. I care about the benefits that it can provide long term, and that's what I look for. And I just stay in my lane and let somebody else who enjoys that go do it. Yeah, by all means, go do your thing. And that's how it works for me. That's how I play the real estate game, is by only doing the things that I enjoy to do from the process, and let somebody else handle the stuff that I don't. And there's a lot involved in real estate that I don't like doing. Right. So I'm not your guy. If for any of you typing a question, if you're asking me like, well, what kind of what thread count you use for your sheets, I don't know. Okay. Because I don't. But I have sheets. I can tell you that.
Right.
I have 4 sets per bed. And that's what's important to understand. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's actually a really beautiful thing, that you can pick and choose to that degree that I don't know those things, and you're choosing to not know those things. You're just like,
Correct.
It gets done, and that's that. And that's how you've designed your business and your life, and you like it that way.
100%.
Yeah. So for those who are just watching, or if you guys are watching this in the future, this is May 2020, and we are currently in a pandemic situation.
Oh, yes, we are.
Jay, your first pandemic. I'm not sure you've been through one.
It definitely mine.
But welcome to the first one. How has this pandemic affected your business, though?
Got it. I'm sure it's affected every business. And what it comes down to is understanding that there are 5 key and distinct areas that have to be evaluated when it comes to your business, in order to really understand what you need to do. All right. Because every business is going to be affected differently in one of the 5 or multiple of the 5 key areas. Those 5 key areas being results, value demonstration, results, value demonstration, value proposition, capability, and why am I missing one? Capability and, hold on, I can find the 5th one. But what it comes down to is understanding that your business is as the sum of those particular 5 categories. And once you know that, then you just have to ask yourself, 3 questions to be specific. So let me find the effect, because it's coronavirus. Because what it comes down to is, you and I, all of us actually, we may not think about it, but we don't necessarily go through the formal process of understanding our business to the level that we should, so that we can pivot effectively and make any changes if need be, when a crisis occurs. And that's basically what this is. I mean, larger companies, they have a crisis team, for lack of a better way of putting it, that have already asked these questions, so that when a crisis happens, they know what to do. And that the difference is that most of us as small business owners, we did not do it, or we built the business with a single point of failure in one or many of the areas that have been affected. And then now you got a problem. So here's what I mean by that. The business, for example, when we talk about value demonstration, this is one of the biggest areas that was hurt or changed or it affected from the pandemic. And let's be very, very clear. It's not even so much the pandemic as much as it is travel restrictions. Because again, it's the travel restrictions more than it is the actual disease in and of itself, or virus in and of itself, that has the limiting factor. So, the customer, that's what it was. Let me go. It was results, customer, value proposition, value demonstration, and capability. Those are the 5 areas. So when we're talking about value demonstration, it's how do you sell to your customers? For those of you who want to because obviously we don't have time to go through all 5 of these, you want to look up a book called Alignment Squared, Thomas Ritter, I think it was 2014. And that'll get you started on a lot of what I'm talking about right now. And so when it comes to value demonstration, how do you sell to your customers? Every business has a way of selling to their customers. And what they have to reassess is, okay, this is how we used to do it. And then you start to have to ask yourself this question in three different stages. This is how we used to do it. So how do we do it now, like today? Because we still have to do it. If we're going to stay in business, we still have to sell to our customers. Okay, so do we do that with like a retail store? How does it demonstrate the value to its customers in this particular situation? Because you can't exactly go to the retail floor, and you've got to figure out, what are we going to do? What needs to change, right? And you got to figure it out during the crisis, immediately after the crisis, and then what is new normal. Those are the three different stages. We're smack dab as of right now during the crisis. Now, there's some states, especially in the United States, and some other countries, that are trying to rush to the next stage. But during the crisis, how should you act, respond, etc., to demonstrate value, sell to your customers? How do you do that? And what changes need to occur? And then you also have the second stage just after, and then you have whatever new normal is. People want to get to the new normal, like we talked about earlier. They just want to jump straight to the end and have all these properties, etc. It doesn't work that way. We will only get through this by going down the proper process, and whatever that proper process is, which is part of what's up for debate. But in each of those three stages is where you and I, as small business owners, we have to ask ourselves, across those 5 different areas, what should we be doing?
Let's talk about specifics, the specifics of it. So during the crisis, right? You got the during the crisis, after the crisis, and then new normal, right? Yep. How does one demonstrate the value during the crisis? Give me like something tangible that people can sink their teeth into.
For example, during the crisis, how I'll take Best Buy, because they were the first company I saw do this. Before BC, I call that before coronavirus.
Before Corona, BC, we're back to it. I love it.
Before coronavirus, it was you go into Best Buy. Now Best Buy comes out, right? That's what happens. They said, okay, if we can't have the retail floor open and we still want to move product, what could we do? Well, they can place the order online for store pickup. We can organize our parking spaces, because that's what they did. They literally started putting numbers and colors and assigning you a check-in place where you drive up, you check in, and they tell you go to A3, and it's like playing bingo or something. And then they bring the order to the car and you go. And that worked. So they totally changed how they demonstrated their value, because they could not use the retail floor anymore. So they had to rely on their website and a new process. So they started marketing their new process when you go to their website to let you know, here's what we can still do, and this is what we are doing now, and here's how it works. Everything was laid out for you, so there would be no mistaking that you would still be able to get your item at the store you wanted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how they're doing it right now, today, during the crisis. Now, what is it going to look like just after? I don't know, but my guess is it'll change, and then there will become a new normal, and they'll continue to do that. But that's one example of many that are all going on, because everyone's figuring out how to do it. A completely different situation could be, I've seen this too, where certain stores they're passing out, okay, first of all, you have a QR code. You can't, they've limited the number of people that go inside. So you have a QR code that you scan to virtually wait in line. Then when it's your turn, you go up, and a security person is there, verifies that it's your turn. They put hand sanitizer on you. And if you have decided to arrive without gloves and or a mask, they issue them to you. Then you go in the store. And that is how they're still being able to do what they do. They still have to sell to their customer, but they just got to do it differently.
What kind of strategies have you seen for real estate in that regard, in that same vein?
You got to show property. So you know what? Previously, you were showing property in that person, or you stalked them through the house in some way, shape, or form, or you're trying to find out which short-term rental you're going to use. Well, now hopefully you have some sort of, if you don't, but if you have a remote entry system, you're leveraging that. Or if you don't, you arrive, you unlock the door, you go back downstairs, you let them go in so that they can see it and hopefully choose to use it. You wait for them to come back, and then they come back outside. So it's a modification of the exact same process that you've been using, or you do it completely virtually via Zoom in some way, shape, or form, where you go to the property, you guys connect on Zoom, and now what they're doing is they're looking through to watch. They can see, and ask you questions and all this other stuff. Or the same thing with Skype. Or you're using if you're a Matterport, it's a different type of a camera that can help you create virtual 3D tours through the property, because now being able to experience it that way also matters. Or virtual reality is another way to still be able to have the customer experience the product, because when you have a situation like real estate, which has to be experienced, or the marketplace is used to being able to experience the actual location because they're physically able to go there, you now have to adapt and give them as close to that as you possibly can, so that you can still operate. So you've got options. They've taken some setup, they take some forethought, but it's stuff like that's again, same thing. That's how you have to operate for the time being.
I've heard of people shifting their short-term rentals to cater to nurses and doctors that maybe flew in to work at a spot. So have you heard of anybody doing that within your circles? Or
yeah, but that's the other. So that value demonstration is one. So now we're talking about who are the customers, right? So when you talk about who are the customers, how is someone going to use your location? So yeah, the use of the location changes. Nurses and the emergency responders, yes, that totally makes sense. But here are some extra ones that hopefully someone listening to me will do, because I know the need is there in your geographic area. The nursing homes and assisted living facilities, there have been outbreaks, if you will, of COVID-19 in those areas too. Therefore, what needs to happen, what should happen is grandma, if your grandma or mom or what have you is still healthy enough, move them out of there for the time being into a short-term rental. If they still need, because they can't come to your house because they're still in the high-risk category, but they can go to a short-term rental and stay 2, 3, 4 months and still be safe, right? And if they still need some medical assistance, that person can still come there. But now grandma truly is, isolated like she should be, as opposed to stuck in her room that might be 10 by 3. No, I was going to say 10 by 3. That's the wrong country. 10 by 12, if you will. That's what but that's another use case, and it's needed. It's not even a far stretch. It's a problem that's being shown and televised on the news every day. Then you've got the same situation with the emergency responders who live in the area, but they don't want to go back home, but they can go to your short-term rental. But then you also have those businesses that are still open right now, and maybe they're a big office complex, right? So, and here's what happened. You just got to take it a couple of steps. The person who was working in that office complex was meant to have a job, desired a job where they went to an office. Therefore, their home was never customized for them to work at. And if so, it was only like maybe a few hours on the weekend, nowhere near as long as it's been. Okay. Furthermore, they definitely did not plan on having the kids present at the same time. So this has now resulted in a situation where most people are fighting over the kitchen table and who gets to use it right now. And could you please be quiet, because I'm on this Zoom call and it's not working out, right? Well, their employer or themselves, they could go and rent a short-term rental, because I know when you're thinking about your customer types ahead of time, I know one of the things that's present in all of ours is the highest Wi-Fi available in the area. At least one desk, and in some cases two, especially if it's a 2-bedroom, so that you have a dedicated workspace that is not the kitchen table, so that you can do it and do what you're used to.
I'm
I mean, I
liking
can
it.
keep going, but at the end of the day, it's just understanding that it's just you're just going to use it differently. And then once you figure that out, it's like, okay, cool. How do I get in front of that person?
Right. No, I love the pivots. I really, really do, because in this business, you have to definitely like move with the market. And that's with
Yes,
any business, right? Things happen.
correct.
And Damien says, what a great idea to market a short-term rental. So he agrees, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I appreciate Damien's agreement. Now, what I want him to do is go do it, because that's what's going to make a difference for him and, well, another family, right? Because, and again, this is just the stuff that I've guided people through and have been helping them with. And in fact, the larger your property, the more likely it is for you to be able to help someone who was in an assisted living facility. Because that's what I've watched our students be able to do, is they're being able to get very nice reservations, like as in nice in terms of length of time and dollar amount, even relative to the BC days, but again, before coronavirus, it's still a good reservation. And that's the thing. You just changed the use case. It never went away, which is one of the reasons why you must understand you do not have an Airbnb business. You have a short-term rental business. Airbnb is but one marketplace of many where the buyer and the seller meet. And if you think you have an Airbnb business, that is the first misstep along a whole bunch of others that you end up making, and you cannot operate that way.
That's like a
mental point of failure.
limitation. It's like a pigeonhole holding your brain in thinking one way. So if somebody wanted to,
it's no different. Were you high bar floor exercise or
high
all
bar
around?
rings?
What's that, high bar and rings?
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, good. Those were the things you specialized in, right? And you thought of things in terms of that. But at the time when the all around came around, you had to do the pommel horse, and you're like, dude, okay, I really would like not to, but so, and that's my point, but you were open to, you didn't say you were when I asked you, have you played a sport? You said gymnast. You did not even go narrow and just say, oh no, I did rings.
Right.
You didn't do that. You said gymnast, meaning all of the apparatus. And that's the difference of what I'm saying. It's the same level of thinking. You provide short-term housing to people that need it when it matters most. That can change. Right. And that's the thing to understand, is when it does change, what do I do?
Right. Right. And then with the short-term rental, to change it into an office, to change it to grandma's new nursing home, to change it to doctor or nurse facility, change it to whatever. How do you do it? What platform? How would you, Jay, do this if you owned an Airbnb or a short-term rental?
It's okay.
If you owned a short-term rental, how would you go about marketing and, I guess, showing the value proposition? How would you go demonstrating that you are available and open for that business?
Got it. So, and again, this is around, okay, and this is, we are shortcutting what are literally 12 hours worth of exercise work, but here's the brief in general. Before, proximity is always important. The question is proximity to what? For example, you could sell a property for premium because of its proximity to a pool. However, at the moment, pools are closed. So if your marketing still says close to the pool or pools nearby, et cetera, those are wasted characters. You got the time to get the right got a person's attention, but then you took the precious few seconds. You only got like 7 or 8. You got the precious few seconds, and what they read was pool, aka irrelevant to me right now.
Right.
However, proximity to a grocery store and or hospital and or assisted living facility or police station, or depending on who the customer is, there's something different that they currently value, and whatever that is, is what we need to be focused on, if that makes sense.
It does. Okay. So it really depends on what's there so you know how to market to it. And then maybe you can like put a mailer out there, something, right? And
Well, you could do a mailer, but you don't have to necessarily change how you're marketing as much as you have to change what you're saying when you do it.
so you can still do it on the same platform that you've been
You
doing.
can, absolutely.
Just the verbiage so that anybody looking,
Yep.
they'll search by physical location. So they'll put
Yes.
the little circle and then see your property. And
Yes,
then when
yes,
they see
yes,
it, they go, that's exactly what I needed.
Yes. You just got to speak to what they needed. And what they need right now, no one cares that our properties are like, we have 13 locations that are 3.8 miles from Disneyland. Nobody cares right now
Right.
at all.
Right.
And so us continuing to say, hey, but we're only 3.8 miles from Disneyland does not help us at all. But hey, we're 2 miles from, I think it's Hogue Hospital. No, not Hogue, St. Joseph. From a hospital. I don't remember.
From a hospital, yes.
That matters now. That matters more than it used to, right? Yeah. And or advertising that we can have one nurse stay in one bedroom and grandma stays in the other. Oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. Because again, the person in distress is likely not having these thoughts, right? They're not thinking in the same way that you and I can be. And if we present the idea to them, they go, oh, that makes sense.
Right.
I can do that.
Tell them, use this as your office while you work from home.
Correct.
They might not have thought about that, but then it's like, oh, wow, that's great.
And maybe, yeah, and I mean, and then we still haven't even covered some of the most obvious when you think about it, because you may not be aware, but your pipes don't care that there's a coronavirus. So if they burst, and you still need a place to go stay. And right now, the idea, and because it's just nothing but opportunity everywhere. The idea right now is that many hotels have just decided to close up shop. Or what's worse is they're built for packing them high and tight. No one wants to go to a crowded lobby full of hundreds of people right now. So they want more of the isolated experience, which means that when, not if, when an insured has their house is no longer livable for whatever reason, it burns down, there's fire, there's flood, there's a something, toilet overflow, because the kids are home more, so more stuff's getting stuffed down the toilet. Well, they need a place to go because little Johnny made the whole downstairs unlivable because mom was on the Zoom call while dad was upstairs on his and nobody was watching. And then here we go. And that's just what happens. And so now you're in this situation where do we go? How can we? I mean, we can't do what we do from a hotel. Not only is their Wi-Fi unreliable, but the space is so much less. And we've got a dog. I mean, so there's too many use cases. And what we have to do is we just have to learn to go market a lot better because we don't have an Airbnb business. And once you get them filled, especially right now, this is the part that's exciting. Is like once you get them filled because people are staying so long, it creates opportunity and time for you to go find more locations because a rising tide does lift all boats. The only question is, how many boats are you going to have?
Right. And I love this conversation because it's not just about this pandemic that's happening right now. This pandemic happens in your life all the time. There's all kinds of things happen.
Right.
And it's like, what are you going to do about it? It's kind of like when Airbnb hit the market, the hotels are like, oh my gosh, like, what do we do?
Yes.
So
yeah, absolutely.
That was a pandemic to the hotel. Or
I never thought of it that way, but yes, I'm sure they still think of it as a disease that they'd like to get rid of, but that's a whole nother story.
Of course, right? But it's like, what do you do to pivot when a pandemic hits your industry? And that happens all of the time.
Yes. Now, see, the industries that are in trouble, like trouble, are airlines. Airlines are in trouble. Cruises, trouble. Like that's like, wow. But cruises have already started. I'm seeing them already do some of the same things and begin to pivot. So that's good. So I'm less concerned about them than I am the whole airline situation. Auto manufacturers, your Fords, your GMs, trouble because so many cars are not getting purchased right now. I don't know, and they probably don't know either what their solution is. Those are much harder pivots that are beyond me, right? They're beyond me. Those are the things that I would be concerned about. Short-term rentals, so long as a human, like anyone listening to my voice, wants a roof over their head, there's a space for what we do. And not only is there a space, consumer preference has already begun to shift a long time ago towards I only want to pay for it when I need it. And I don't necessarily need to own the thing in order to gain use of the thing.
So remember back in 2008 when we had the economic crisis from the housing, and then they were
Oh, I
saying
remember
that
it very well.
I'm sure you do. And they were saying that a lot of millennials don't want to buy a house because they went through this 2008. They saw what happened to their parents.
Mhm.
They experienced it third party. And so
Yep.
they're like, nope, I'm not buying a house.
Right.
So then we go through this pandemic thing. So they may not even care to rent anything long term either.
Correct.
They might do short-term rental for their
Correct.
whole life. They just nomadic. They live in a painted school bus with no seats in it. They buy an RV.
Got
They
it.
live in an SUV. They a tiny home, trailer pulled, Airstream, whatever. So things are constantly changing. And
You got it.
yeah,
You
so
hit the nail on the head. I'd been seeing that since 2016. Since 2016, when there were a number, they were mostly in the entertainment industry, but there was a number of individuals who were they full time from short term rental to short term rental. That was their thing, and that's just how they did it. And I'm like, can't fault them. Totally understand. Got it.
right,
And they would so it that yeah, it's been going on. I can only imagine that it will continue. And those that are even older, especially older with children, they're going over to RVs and whatnot. Uh, I suspect that this trend is, like I said, it's clear that consumer preference is for more mobility, not less. And as technology enables more of that mobility, as Wi-Fi gets better, 5G, your iPad Pros, and all the other stuff gets lighter and faster, and all this other stuff, people just start asking themselves, why do I keep going to an office when I
right,
could just stop at any coffee shop and do the same thing?
right. Yeah, I often spread the message that maybe jobs aren't as safe and secure as people may think they are. So
Well, I think they know that now, at least
yeah,
30 million of them.
yeah, and that's the thing though. A lot of times you have to go through something before that message actually sinks in. I don't know how many people I've told that to, but they're just like, yeah, because it's tough to absorb and internalize that jobs are maybe not so safe when you still have a job. So you're like, no,
And when your company is ginormous, you can't envision. Who envisioned, like, no one envisioned a Carnival cruise line like last time I saw, I think they still had 80,000 workers still stuck on boats that can't get off because the respective governments won't let them off for fear of infection. When did any of them go, oh yeah, this is going to be a thing? Right? When did nobody thought at the car dealership because of how many they had and all this? Who thinks of, oh, I'm gonna have to sit at home for I don't even know how long it's been, but no one like sat there and thought that that was going to happen. The big company was the protection, the
right,
guarantee, steady, sure paycheck, and now that's been called into question. So
right.
it'll be interesting to see how this continues to pan out.
Yeah, Damien says a lot of millennials never saw a layoff. Yeah,
Oh
well,
wow, good point. Never thought about. Did not think about that one. Got laid off for the first time. I remember what that's like, and yeah, it's not a
welcome to life.
pleasant experience, huh?
Yeah, welcome to life. Have you ever, first time?
Yes, totally.
Emily says, focusing on pivot points is so essential in every stage. This is such great value. Thank you both.
You're welcome. Anytime. Anytime. My
Yeah,
only request is that you do something with it. Don't be a knowledge
that is true.
collector. Don't do
Right,
that.
right. Knowledge collector. So everybody wants to have the result. And so what I teach people is knowledge, confidence, action, results. Okay. Knowledge
Yes.
builds your
Yes.
confidence, which
Yes.
allows you to take action, which gets you your result. So
Yes.
we've given a lot of knowledge, sit
Yes.
with it, gain some confidence, like
Yes.
really internalize it, know it. And then you can go take that action because you got the
Yes.
confidence, and then you get that result.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but I love that you keep saying it, guys. Yes, very powerful stuff. Go do something with it because it's
Please.
useless without it.
Yeah.
Did you?
Otherwise, it's just something that yeah, I mean, it doesn't have any, it doesn't have much value and you don't receive much value. Yes, you may feel good right now, today, in this moment. Oh, you did learn something. Yes, this is of value. That is why you have come to the home zone. What'd you expect? You didn't tune in for no value. You expected value. That's why you came here. And yes, you've received it again. Now do something with it.
That is a
Anything.
very good point.
And that's the thing that'll make the difference.
Right, right. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, how would they get in contact with you? Is it your website, Cashflow
Oh,
Diary?
yeah. Cashflow Diary is by far the easiest way to catch up with us. And if you really, really want, you can listen to the podcast at cashflowdiarypodcast.com. And for those of you who have been, we'll call it curious about the whole short-term rental world, or maybe like, because one of the things when you're getting into real estate that's important for you to understand is what is the goal? Most people just get started in real estate without even understanding that. We have found it's very helpful to give humans, meaning you, me, we, all of us, a goal to shoot for. And one of the most esoteric, hard to hit, or intangible goals is to know how many properties do you need in order to retire. Well, from a short-term rental perspective, we put together a calculator that will help you do exactly that. And that's over at cashflowdiary.com/how many units. And when you go there, it'll be very, very simple for you to know how many units you need. And for most people, well, that experience is like, wow, I did not realize it was so few. It suddenly seems attainable to put yourself at what I would call that first stage of freedom, if you will.
Right.
And that's the whole goal. That's what we're here to do, is to help people understand that, real estate's great, but it's probably the benefits you care about more than the actual wood and what it's made of and the pipes and all the things. So stay in your lane, focus where you're strongest, and always be ready to, change the business model if you need to.
Yeah, no, that's super, super important. So, guys, if this is your first time ever hearing from Jay, hearing about Jay, check him out, Cashflow Diary Podcast.com, as well as cashflowdiary.com. Or you can also go to cashflowdiarypodcast.com/how many units?
Cashflowdiary.com/how many units.
Okay, so take out the podcast
Yeah.
and how many units. Let me
Yeah.
change
Yeah.
that real quick. There we go. So yeah, how many units? It's amazing because that gives you that, like you said, it's that first step. It's, if you guys have ever played the game Cash Flow 101, it's
Yes.
how you get out of the rat race. Step one, and then step two, you get into the fast track. So there's the game right there.
Always have at least one of these nearby. Always. Because you never know when it's time to play.
You
You
never,
just never know when it's time to play.
you never know. Well, Jay, thank you so much for your wisdom, your generosity, for all your
Yeah.
tips, your gems, and cracking on people to tell them to take action.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for taking the time to put this together. I know firsthand that this is not easy. It takes a lot of extra work. And for those of you watching, hopefully, if you're watching, you've given him all the likes and the shares and the things that's necessary, because it's a lot of effort putting out, gathering the information, providing it, and knowing that it is there for you to take advantage of. So hopefully you're doing that as well. And thank you for listening.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, That is it. We will catch you guys at the next episode. See ya.